Thank you, Mr. Clumpet. Picture me, Kevin Hatcher, on summer vacation. I was staring out the most beautiful bay this side of Pago Pago. 6 small boats were rounding a buoy. The wind caught their sails, and they swayed in unison like a flock of exotic white-winged birds. It was an awesome sight, but what was on my mind? School. Even worse, I was thinking about Mr. Clumpet, my science teacher. He'd been on my mind ever since I'd come to this sailing camp. Let me explain. At least once a month, the kids in my science class had made the same complaint. "You're making us learn a bunch of useless stuff, Mr. Clumpet." He'd always lift his chin and smile without showing any teeth. "Mark my words," he'd say. "Someday you'll need to know the things I'm teaching you." The boats were halfway back to the dock. My turn was next. It was the final of my sailing course. Rubbing my hands against my pants nervously, I knew Mr. Clumpet's someday had arrived. When Mr. Clumpet had taught us the unit on simple machines, levers and pulleys, I wondered what he could have been thinking. I mean, what was I, a caveman? No, I thought. When I needed to do something, I'd flip on a switch. I'd get some machine's motor revving. I wouldn't need any simple machines. Of course, that was before Mom and Dad signed me up for sailing camp. It didn't take me long to decide they should have called it Simple Machine Camp. When you're sailing, there just aren't any switches to flip or motors to rev. On the first day of camp, Sue, the head instructor, took the class onto her own boat and gave us a tour. The boat was huge, and it had a cabin with bunks and a galley. "My boat is steered with a wheel," Sue had said, "a wheel and an axle." I'd heard Mr. Clumpet say inside my head, the boats you'll be learning on use a tiller. "That's a Class 1 lever," I'd heard Mr. Clumpet say. "The sail is attached to a pole called the boom," Sue explained. "The boom is controlled by a block and tackle, a pulley system," Mr. Clumpet added. "You raise the sail by pulling on the main halyard," Sue went on. "It works with a fixed pulley." Mr. Clumpet explained. "The sail goes up like a flag on a flagpole." As Sue took us over the boat, I saw simple machines everywhere. There were turnbuckles to tighten the shrouds that kept the mast fixed. "Screws," Mr. Clumpet said. There were winches to haul in the jib sheet or forward sail, more wheels and axles. The bow was a simple machine itself, wedge-shaped to cut through water. Even the toilet worked with a lever-operated pump, Class 2 lever, load between the fulcrum and effort. Sue had finished the tour, saying by the end of the course, "You should be qualified to crew on a boat like this. Here's my offer. Pass the final, and you're invited for a day's sailing." I'd had mixed feelings about the course up until that point. I'd thought most of the boats I'd be sailing wouldn't be much bigger than a bathtub. But Sue's boat was something else. It made me think of tropical islands and sandy beaches, of treasure and pirates. I just had to pass the final. All too soon the boats were back. As I climbed into my boat, the sail flapped madly. Was the wind getting stronger? "Okay," Sue called to my group. "You know the course. And don't worry. If you need help, Greg will come out to you in the motorboat." As I checked to be sure my life jacket was strapped tight, my brain was suddenly awash with memories, all of them bad. I thought about the day I'd gotten stuck heading up into the wind, and the time I'd frozen and let a gust of wind overturn my boat. Maybe, I thought, Greg should rescue me right now. For a moment, I couldn't even remember what I was supposed to do first. "The wedge," Mr. Clumpet's voice said in my head. "Huh?" "The dagger board acts as a wedge in the water, Kevin. It keeps the boat from slipping sideways in the wind. Push it down into the water, and then use the block and tackle to haul in the sail. Look lively." The first leg of the course was upwind. To reach the buoy, I had to cut back and forth at an angle to the wind. 3 times I levered the tiller to change direction and used the pulleys to adjust the sail. Imagine how difficult it would be to move the rudder and control the sail without simple machines, Mr. Clumpet pointed out. When I passed the first buoy, I pushed the tiller starboard and came about. When the wind hit the sail, the boat heeled onto its side. "Let out the sail," Mr. Clumpet advised. "The pulleys will give you enough strength to move it." Remember that simple machines give you a mechanical itch. At the second buoy, I came about again. Only one leg of the course to go. I was running with the wind now, so all I needed to do was hold on to the tiller and steer my way home. I pulled up the daggerboard when I reached shallow water. Then I sprang out of the boat to haul it onto shore. The boats were stored about 3 meters, 10 feet, above water level. Dragging the boat up the sandy slope, I said aloud, "Now I'm using an inclined plane. Much easier than lifting the boat, eh, Mr. Clumpet?" "Did you say something, Kevin?" said a voice behind me. It was Sue. I shook my head and vowed to control my imagination better. "I don't think I've ever seen you sail so well," Sue told me. "I'm going to have one capable crew member for my boat. Congratulations, Kevin." "Thanks," I said, and as Sue went off to help another camper, I added, "Thank you, too, Mr. Clumpet."